It's time for a little chitty chatty Q&A. It's been a minute since we've done one of these. Today we're talking everything from carnivore diet, Aura ring to motivation. Let's get started. So I posted a question box on Instagram asking what questions you had, and I'm going to give you my full unfiltered thoughts now. The first one is, what are your thoughts on the carnivore diet? If you didn't know this, the carnivore diet and I have a bit of a history. So what the carnivore diet is essentially, there's a couple different versions of it. It's either going to be just meat, butter. Some people are really strict and don't do dairy products. Some people do meat and dairy products. Some people just do meat and eggs. Some people do like dirty carnivore where they start to include a couple of things like honey and maybe some berries or maybe some fruits, which at that point I kind of think is just more paleo. But here's my honest thoughts on the carnivore diet as someone who has done it and who has a history of disordered eating and who has a well-rounded view in the fact that some people are really, really, really sick. So here's my thoughts. First, my story. I did the carnivore diet for pretty much a full year. And the reason that I did it wasn't good. It was like my transition from, I was doing Whole30, and this was like, wow, this is about to be 6 years ago this fall. And I did Whole30 because I knew people that were doing it and we were all going to do it together. And I had like put on 10 pounds at summer training when I was like at my missionary training because I was eating in a dining hall and that wasn't what my body was used to. And I heard that everyone else was doing it. And I was like, well, maybe this will help me like reset. That's kind of how I was doing Whole30. My beef with Whole30, which I have a whole episode on my beef with Whole30, definitely go check that out. But my beef with Whole30 is that it teaches you how to cut out things. It doesn't really teach you how to eat or how to nourish your body. But pretty quickly, I was also like under eating and I was very, very stressed because I had just moved to like a new city. I got a little bit hooked to the rules. I used to have a lot of rules around my food and I had just these secret things and like challenges that I would have myself when I was kind of in my disordered eating in high school. And my biggest mistake was not knowing that this was going to be a scar on my heart and that I shouldn't mess around with things like that, that my brain kind of fritzes out sometimes if I do very strong diets with these rules like Whole30, that's like good foods and it's like the yeses and the nos. And then we talk about the sugar dragon and all those kinds of things. So it kind of like sucked me back in to my world of disordered eating and I kind of hit rock bottom. So in that Whole30 journey, I started losing weight pretty fast. And I was like, I like that. I hate the rules around Whole30, but I like that I'm losing weight and I was losing it pretty fast. And then I was hearing about carnivore a lot, which this is in like 2019. And it was a little bit more fringe than it is now. And like now I hear more people ask about this than they used to ask about Optavia and about Whole30 when I was first starting. But now a lot more people ask about carnivore. And so then I went full carnivore and was just eating meat, eggs, bacon, butter. That was like the main thing. Sometimes I would cheat and I would go crazy because I couldn't stop thinking about like bell peppers. Or I think bell peppers and goat cheese were two of the things that I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna have some vegetables. But I was like pretty strict about it. So I would just eat like steak, ground beef, eggs, butter, and bacon. A lot. And then sometimes I would kind of like break and do other things, but I was really intense with it. So here's my thoughts on it. One, having done it and having lived it the way that I did it, and having been a part of the Facebook groups and seeing how people were doing it, there is a lot of hidden disordered eating in the carnivore world. I'll tell you that right now. Being masked as health, it's being masked as discipline, it's masked as virtue, it's masked as, oh, and I'm not even hungry anymore. So I don't even eat for 3 days. These are like literal conversations I used to see. I used to be a part of this one like carnivore women's Facebook group, and it was literally, it's tragic, but it was literally just women encouraging each other in their disordered eating. It was really, really, really heartbreaking. I saw a lot of dark things on there. And while I was doing it, I felt weird about it, but I liked being skinny more. Isn't that how that works? So that's like my disordered eating perspective on it, is that it is very, very difficult to do an intense elimination diet like Whole30 or like carnivore without it getting disordered. Unless you have like the proper support, you have someone intentionally looking after your brain, you know how to look after your brain, you know yourself well enough to go into this, like I think it's very difficult for people not to leave with some kind of disordered or warped view of food or their body or of like eating and dieting overall. That's one thought. The second thought is, what is carnivore and why do people have such good results on it? Because that's another thing. You see, like, everyone's like, oh my gosh, I'm reversing all these things or I'm healing all these things. It is like the elimination diet of all elimination diets. You're like bringing it down to the simplest foods, just these animal proteins. And so it takes a lot of burden off of the body, especially if your gut was already really, really messed up. So I was someone who, like, I stopped having stomach aches every single day, which was my thing when I was on carnivore. So that I was so grateful for. I was having like normal bowel movements. I wasn't having stomach aches anymore. And so I was like, wow, this is like, it was this weird combination of it's bringing me relief, but also I'm getting like addicted to how little I can eat. I was doing OMAD with it. I was doing like extreme intermittent fasting, like being like, well, I'm not going to eat until 12. Well, can I not eat until 2? Can I not eat until 4? Can I just have one meal a day? My first meal a day is going to be at 7, and that's fine. And I just need to get through it. So mine might have been like a very extreme form of disordered eating with it, but I think that that's possible for a lot of people. Um, do I think that there are some people in certain situations that can benefit from it? Yes, for a period of time. So I would say it has to, I personally do not recommend it as a long-term solution because I don't think that it is one. But if someone needs to do it for a month or a couple of months with proper supervision, with proper lab work, with proper guidance and a plan to move you out of it as like a way to kind of calm your body down, that's one thing. But that's not how I see people do it. I see women doing it while they're breastfeeding, doing it postpartum to lose weight. I see them getting sucked into the groups. I see like college students trying it out on their own, or like I have so many people that'll be like, my roommate is trying it. Like, how do I communicate this to them? And I'm like, man, I was that roommate. But it can be a short term solution, but it is not a long term or sustainable option for multiple reasons. One, it's kind of hard to live a normal life with it. And I'm everything that I'm saying, I know what all the carnivore people say because I used to say them. So like if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, but what about this? But what about that? I'm like, no, I get it. So people are like, oh, but this woman has been doing it for 30 years. Like that's one of the people that I used to point out when I was doing it. And that's fine. I just personally don't think it's easy to have like a regular pace of life with it. And then also I start to get concerned about like micronutrients. You can also start to affect your gut microbiome by not having the right variety of local and seasonal foods. It doesn't even have to be variety of your nutrition doesn't mean that you're eating a million different things that are being shipped from all over the world and that like you should be having papayas if you live in like Michigan. Like some of those things don't make sense. I really do believe that a local and seasonal diet is what makes the most sense. And then my concern is always like the disordered aspect. This is like a quick run through. Let me know if you want more thoughts on this, but I hope this kind of helps open up the conversation. Actually, another thing about it that I didn't realize until maybe 2 years after I ended it was just how low my intake was throughout the day because I was eating such satiating foods that I think I was actually under eating, which is why I was losing weight so fast. But I just don't recommend it as a long-term solution. If it is for weight loss, there are way better ways for you to lose weight that doesn't feel so extreme. And I know it can feel like oh, I have to do something extreme or I can't do moderation. That's like a big thing that I used to remember in the carnivore community. It was like, it's better for me to restrict than to moderate. Like I cannot even look at certain things. I cannot even have them. And I eventually wanted to get to the place where there is a donut downstairs on my kitchen island that is mine. My husband bought it for me, and I'm so excited to have it. And I feel totally in control, and I'm going to have it when it feels right. And like, I don't have this thing of like, oh, I can't keep it in the house anymore, which is definitely how I used to view things. And I started demonizing a lot of carbs. And I also just get concerned with women doing really, really extreme diets because your body needs safety and abundance to function well. That can be an abundance of nutrients. The safety of knowing when your next meal is going to be is really, really important. So there's a lot of nuance to it, but you can also be under eating on the carnivore diet and you're just not getting certain variety. I think a lot of people also don't do it very well. So that's like kind of like from the weight loss perspective. If you are like chronically ill or your symptoms are at like a level 8, 9, 10 extreme where you're like, I have to do something, different ball game altogether. I still would recommend that you don't do it alone. You do it with the proper guidance of a practitioner that can be watching over and testing. I had a conversation about this with a past client that she was like, hey, I'm testing this out right now. And I was like, if I were you, if I was to do this all over again, which I don't think I ever will. Thank God. But I was like, if I ever to do this all over again, because my gut symptoms were that extreme, then I would have started with lab testing, and I would be testing around every 3 to 6 months just to make sure that like my thyroid health is still good, that I'm paying attention to my blood sugar, all of the little things that we can see in your blood work. I would be doing that the whole time. So I would do it with a practitioner that can watch over me, that we're testing, and I would do it with the intention that this not be the long-term plan, that I not be expecting. Because I literally, there was a point where I was like, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. I'm never going to eat carbs ever again. And my salad days are over, which like I love salad. So seeing it as like a short-term solution to bring down either inflammation in the gut, irritation in the gut, whatever it may be that is happening, and knowing how to rebuild so that we can have a little bit more variety in your diet and still keep your symptoms moderate to low for a time being, and then like really getting to the root and healing what's going on. Okay, what are some of the best ways to get protein in being gluten-free and dairy-free with PCOS? I am a full year into my gluten-free diet because of my Hashimoto's, and have been reducing my dairy to see. I'm actually going to test my blood work very soon. I'm going to see how my lab markers respond to that. But the main thing, honestly, is just double the meat. Double the meat. Don't make it too complicated, because when you think about if you do eat dairy, easy ways to add extra protein to your diet would be like Greek yogurt. And that can be added in or can be used as like sauces, or it can be added to smoothies, or it can be used as a dip. Cottage cheese is obviously like another huge one. Whey protein powders, like those are some of the three I think that are very, very common. But when you're dairy free, you're just thinking about increasing the amount of animal protein on your plate. And if you really, really wanted, there are some good protein powders that are dairy free. I'll link it below, my favorite things. But Equip makes an unflavored one that's great. Their flavored one, unfortunately, has stevia and monk fruit, which I personally cannot stand. And I know some people that are trying to conceive try to avoid it because there's thoughts that maybe it affects, that there's like indigenous groups that use stevia as a contraceptive. So I know that some people, when they're trying to conceive, try to avoid, or they're on a fertility journey, they try to avoid stevia, or some people break out with stevia and monk fruit. So the unflavored Equip version is another great one. And I know that Core Formulas just put out a new dairy-free protein powder that is sweetened with dates instead of stevia and monk fruit. So those are the simplest ways. It's literally just going to be more meat. That's it. Keep it simple. Also, because when you're dairy-free and gluten-free, there might end up being the opportunity to add in a lot of gluten substitutes and dairy substitutes, like all the gluten-free breads and the gluten-free pastas and the dairy-free cheeses and all that kind of stuff, which I see can kind of end up messing with people's stomachs. So it's best to just keep it to a minimum and keep it really, really simple instead of going with all of those replacements. And you can totally hit your protein goals. Actually, this week I'm going to send out my meal plan for the week of like what I'm actually going to eat this week. And it's going to be around 150 to 170 grams of protein. And it's gluten-free. And it's, I think, mostly dairy-free too. How do you know if you're not ovulating? Are there any easy signs? First of all, I'm glad that you're asking this question. And this is something that everyone should be asking, whether you are trying to conceive right now and trying to get pregnant this year or not, because ovulation is a sign of health, and it's the main way that your body is producing progesterone, right? So what happens in your cycle is that your follicles will kind of stimulate a few eggs. It'll recruit a few eggs to start growing, and then one dominant egg will begin to grow. And that will be the egg that's released this month. So it's growing, 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 growing. And then ovulation is when it's released and it has the potential to be fertilized. Then that little follicle, that sac that the egg was growing in, now becomes something called the corpus luteum. And this little structure is now responsible for producing progesterone for the rest of the cycle. Or if the egg is fertilized and a baby is conceived, then it's going to produce progesterone for the first 10-ish, 12-ish weeks of the baby's life. So the progesterone is going to balance out estrogen within the body. It's essential. It's what helps you feel like calm too. It's a very, very healthy hormone to have in the right amounts. So some of the signs that you aren't ovulating is, one, if we're not seeing any change in mucus throughout the month. I know, what a word, but if we're not seeing this like clear, stretchy, egg white like lubricative mucus for at least a couple of days in the month, then that is like the mucus that is produced when estrogen is peaking and we're getting close to ovulation. So one, we need to know that there's like changes in mucus, which if you're listening to this and you're like, she needs to stop saying mucus, that's okay. But also if you're like, wait, what's the difference between mucus and discharge? Like, what is discharge? No. Throughout the month, your body is producing different types of cervical mucus, depending on what is happening hormonally. So we're looking for this clear, stretchy mucus. That would be one piece of evidence that we're looking for. You could do LH testing, but that doesn't work for a good portion of women. If you have PCOS, LH testing is probably useless for you because you naturally have like different LH levels. Another thing that you could do is I really like the Prove kits, PROOV. With those, you can check the progesterone metabolites in the urine. So you can test it at home, which is really nice. So with that, you can find it on Amazon, you can find it on their website, and you can find it at Target if you wanted to go buy it in store, but you'll test for a few days. I do recommend that you get at least the 2 or 3 cycle kit so that you can actually use the app that partners with it, but that'll give you another idea of if we're not seeing any of those progesterone metabolites in the urine, you might not have ovulated that cycle or multiple cycles in a row. You can also do blood work to check your progesterone. And those are like the easy ways, because really the best way to see if ovulation has occurred would be like a really well-timed ultrasound, but that's just not, the reality for most women. So those would be a couple of the things that I would be looking out for. And another thing is if we're having a really, really short luteal phase, that is another concern that we have in terms of signs of low progesterone or if ovulation is even occurring. What can I do to prioritize stabilizing blood sugar? I love this one. That's a great question. It's a very important goal for everyone across the board, whether you've been told that you have insulin resistance and blood sugar issues or not. That should be one of the main foundations of your diet, is making sure that you're eating in a way that balances blood sugar. That's why I say like things like Whole30 grind my gears, because it doesn't teach you how to eat. Whereas you balancing your blood sugar teaches you how to eat and when to eat and what to eat. And it makes it really simple. So here are some of those pillars. Is one, protein needs to be the center of the meal. So let's imagine that you're going to have rice and chicken and broccoli. Boring, but let's say it's like a teriyaki bowl. Instead of rice being like the massive foundation and then there being like, I don't know, a couple slices of chicken on top and then some broccoli on the side, you actually want your portion of protein. I like to say at least 30 grams of protein per meal, because this also helps then with muscle protein synthesis and making sure that we have enough, that we're building muscle in the body continuously. But it also helps anchor down the blood sugar. Second thing is making sure that you're eating in regular windows, that you're not going too long between meals. Sometimes I look at food and mood logs and I'm like, girl, it's been 8 hours. Like, what are we doing in between meals, between breakfast and lunch, between lunch and dinner? And then another thing is you do have to be aware of your carbs and the type of carbs that you're eating. Remember that some carbs you digest faster than others. There's a difference in you eating candy or drinking a soda versus you having a sweet potato with the skin on, right? It's going to digest a little bit more slowly. And then also, if you do have a very carby meal, making sure that we're going on a walk after, that you're getting things moving, because then your muscles can uptake that extra glucose and we can kind of help round out that blood sugar faster. I actually recently, I just did an experiment with a blood glucose monitor, the one that integrates with the Aura app. And it was fascinating to see the staple meals that I have and how my body responded to them. And it was like this gentle curve. And then there was one night that we went to watch a movie and I was like, what if I just did it? And I had popcorn and candy, just like completely separate from the meal hours later. And that spike lasted for a very long time, which is very, very stressful for the body. So if you know that you're having a very, very carby meal, like last night we went out for pizza, and luckily we also parked really far away. So we had a nice walk. That means that your muscles can kind of take up the glucose, is another good one. And then if you've kind of paid attention to the glucogoddess and the apple cider vinegar situation, you can have some apple cider vinegar at the start of a very carby meal, and that can also kind of help to dull that blood sugar response after. But good for you for paying attention to this and for making that one of your main goals. Advice for someone who struggles with consistency/motivation for the gym, nutrition, etc. Okay, I'm going to give you some real talk on this one. I'm going to talk to you like we're out getting coffee. Let me grab my matcha. Hang on. Okay, here's my honest how I would go about this. If we were sitting down for coffee and you asked me this and you were like, Flo, I like just can't stay consistent with my workouts, with my food, whatever it is. My first question would be, well, why are you doing this? Like, why does it matter? Why do you like want to be consistent in these things first? Because first there has to be like a profound why. Because you're not going to do something that doesn't matter to you. So why is it important to you that you go to the gym? Why is it important to you that you be eating right? Let's say maybe someone is like, well, I'm trying to lose weight, but I start and then I stop, I start and then I stop. Or like, I know that it's good for me and I do like care about honoring my body, but like, I just get so busy, whatever it may be. Right. But why do you care? And it has to be deeper. Even with something like fat loss, it has to be deeper than just like, I really want to lose 25 pounds, because that will only get you so far. But it's like, what's on the other side of that? Who are you going to be when you lose those 25 pounds? And this isn't to like glorify, like, I'm going to be so happy when I'm skinny, but I want you to go like deeper, deeper than just what you're going to look like. Like, what is it going to be like? Even just you being like, I want to be the one that commits to the process, and I want to know that I can trust myself, and I want to know that I can like help myself through this situation. It's going to build a lot of confidence. Really, like confidence comes from keeping promises to yourself. So I want to prove that I can do this for myself. Or if you're like, I just want to honor my body, I'm like, okay, why? Why does it matter that you be eating right? And I always think personally, I think it's important to think of from like a what's going to happen 40 years from now. And this is something I do with my clients too. I call this the trajectory test is go ahead and grab a pen and paper. Maybe I should do this. We're on video. Let me do this right now. Okay. If you struggle with motivation and consistency and you're watching on Spotify, do this with me. So, when you go and you travel and you do like a long haul flight, and they always have the little TV screens and they show you where your plane is on the map and where it's going to go. That's an airplane. It's not a very good one, but it is one in my heart. So I'm drawing the plane starting point, and then you draw like that long curved arrow, and that's usually a trajectory of where you're going to land. So you draw out your starting point where your airplane is and then where you're going to land. Now, your starting point is I'm really inconsistent with the gym. This is the plane that I'm on right now. This is the track that I'm on. So you're going to write that on the left-hand side where the airplane is. And then I want you to imagine 10 years from now, or 5, where is this going to lead me? So I'm going to do 10 years. So in 10 years, I'm going to be 39. I'm going to be heading into my 40s. Let's say 29-year-old me is inconsistent. And where's that going to lead me for 39-year-old me? And then you can start to brainstorm. And this is where your brain and your creativity are going to take over. You can think, well, if I keep skipping the gym, if I have no consistent workout routine, what's going to happen? Well, within the next 10 years, I will probably start to gain some weight. And then maybe my clothes won't be fitting right. I also, by that point, I might start to notice more like joint pain, or I might have a harder time being as mobile and as active as I might want to be. And if you're like, wow, that sounds crazy, it's like, no. Yeah, by 39, you could have like a bunked up knee or bunked up ankles and like struggle going up and down stairs as quickly as you do now, right? It might sound crazy, but it is absolutely possible within 10 years of inactivity, and not being like super intentional about that. If I started to feel that way, I might start to lose confidence. I might start to be less willing to like say yes to jumping in the pool with my kids or going to the water park with them because I might not feel great. I might start to have more concerning conversations in the doctor's office when it comes to my blood work. Maybe we're starting to notice that my blood sugars are off. They're talking to me about prediabetes. They're talking to me about my insulin, whatever it may be. And so I want you to map out where do you realistically see this path that you're on leading you? And then you just take an honest look at that right-hand side and where that's landing you, and you think, okay, is that where I want to be? And pretty quickly, you're going to be like, no, that's not what I want. But the good news is that you don't have to be like, I'm already there. You have the choice right now to change where you are. And this is another thing that I think people think that they have too much time. Like sometimes people are like, oh, I have time to figure things out, when it's like life goes by like that. Like, yes, you have time and you have plenty of time to make the changes that you want to make, but like don't delay what is good and what can be done right now, because we just can't take time for granted. So then I want you to remember that like you only have to make a 3-degree shift to land in a completely different place. Here's what I mean. So if you were to get on a plane that was taking off in Los Angeles and was headed towards New York City, and the pilot turned the nose of the plane just 3 degrees, you would now land in Washington, D.C., which is an entirely different world altogether. So it is a 3-degree shift. And so those 3 degrees might be like, all right, I'm committing to 3 days a week, 30 minutes. That's it. And it becomes a non-negotiable. Also, when it comes to like a lack of motivation, a lack of consistency, there's an identity issue. You're not going to hack your way through it. Like you really have to sit down and be like, who do I want to be? Because you are never going to stick to a habit that does not align with how you perceive yourself. That's the truth. That's the same thing. This is what James Clear talks about in Atomic Habits, is like the difference between a smoker being offered a cigarette and saying, "Oh, I'm trying not to quit." Versus if you offer me a cigarette, I've never had a habit with cigarettes. I would say, "Oh no, I don't smoke." Like you can hear in my answer that there's an identity here of like, that isn't for me, versus the smoker is like, that is my identity. It's something that I'm trying to get away from. That's actually going to make it a lot harder. When we make the identity shift of, this is who I am. I am someone who works out because it is important that I be active for the people that I love in 30, 40, 50 years. I work out because I want to make sure that my brain stays healthy. Alzheimer's, dementia, Alzheimer's is called type 3 diabetes. It's an insulin issue in the brain. And that's the last thing that I want. And I know that the more muscle that I have on my body, the more places blood sugar has to go, the healthier my insulin will be. And so the more that I am consistent with working out now and building muscle in my late 20s, early 30s, the more I'm going to be able to remember the people that I love. That my niece can walk into the room and I'm going to be like, "What's up, Bobby? Let's talk." That's what I really, really care about. And that is a profound why. Like if I talked about it a lot more, I probably would tear up. That's like the kind of why that I want you to look for. So if you're struggling with your motivation, that's what it is. Also, there's a huge difference between motivation and momentum. You don't need motivation every single day to do what is good, right? There is like a good rule of thumb of like, I didn't feel like doing it, so I did it. Like that's what discipline is. And that's what like, this is who I am. This is like part of my identity. Think about how many times you don't want to go pray. Think about how many times you're like, oh, like, I don't really feel like going to visit Jesus in the chapel today. Okay, whatever, like I do it anyways. So if you're someone like that has like a really consistent prayer life, I want you to take that mentality on, that you're like, well, why do I go pray? Why do I go to mass when I don't feel like it? Why do I do my holy hours? Why do I pray the rosary? Because you're like, well, because I know that it's good. I know that it's just, it's offering due worship to God. I know that it's what is going to get me through the day. I know that apart from him, I'm nothing. It like makes a lot of sense to you. You kind of have to build that same connection when it comes to your nutrition, your exercise, whatever it may be. It has to be an identity thing. So why am I doing this? And who do I want to be? What kind of woman do I want to be? I want to be the kind of woman that's active. This is something else that I hear from a lot of clients, is whether they have kids or not. Sometimes they're just like thinking forward, but they're always like, I want to be the kind of mom that can like get on the floor and play with her kids, or I can run around and chase them, or I can take them on hikes. That's an identity shift. And so that's what you can cling on to. And that's where you don't need motivation anymore. Motivation is fickle. Motivation comes and goes. Motivation is emotional, and you are not like called to live off of emotion. And that's really not a good way to build lasting health, because a lot of the days you're not going to feel like it. Like it's pretty easy to go to the gym and do a 30-minute strength training workout. It's easier not to. It's pretty easy to go to the store and grab a couple packs of tri-tip and chicken and some vegetables and like have food for the week. But it's way easier not to. And so motivation is like the bottom of the barrel. This is what I always say. Motivation is the bottom of the barrel. It is the last thing you care about. It's the least important thing, because it comes and goes. And when you have it, amazing. Work with it, ride that wave, but know that it's going to end, and know that like okay, I'm going to have to like do this on my own again. And so appreciate motivation when it comes, but do not rely on it, and don't get too attached to it. And also don't think that motivation is like a virtue in and of itself, and that if I'm not motivated, there's something wrong with me. No, it's like actually way more impressive when you do things when you're not motivated. And that's what will start to build virtue in and of itself. And that's what's going to build momentum. So instead of you worrying about being motivated, I want you to worry about momentum, where you do one step. You have focus on your domino habits. If I go to the gym once on Monday at the start of the week, you might find that you're more likely to go again on Wednesday and to go again on Saturday morning, right? If I get a buddy and I make a deal with them that we meet each other at the gym every single week, I will be more likely, and that will start to build a momentum. And then you get to see the rewards and the payoffs. And then that will start to grow gradually. Like when you look at athletes and people that are like top tier, top 1% in their game in terms of either being like really healthy or working out or being athletic, whatever it may be, they're also like reaping the rewards of that, which becomes this natural, like positive feedback loop that they're like, yeah, I want to keep going because I look amazing, because I feel amazing, because I feel strong, because I like don't have XYZ problems anymore when I do these healthy things. So remembering that momentum is your focus, especially in the beginning of getting out of kind of a rut. It's like, how do I stick to the 2-minute rule? anything worth doing is worth doing for 2 minutes. And your brain likes completion. Your brain likes when something is finished. So it doesn't like starting a task and not finishing it. So if you say, I told myself I was going to go for an hour-long walk today, I have zero motivation to do that, then you take a 2-minute walk. And at the end of the 2 minutes, you can do a little gut check and be like, do I want to keep going or am I going to turn around? 9 times out of 10, you're going to be like, well, I already started. I'm 2 minutes away from home. I might as well finish the walk. I'm going to go a little bit further. I just needed to get started. Like getting started is really the hardest part. And the same thing with nutrition. It's like set yourself up for success. Make it easy to follow through so you don't have to rely on motivation. Because like I don't have motivation to make myself 3 beautiful, protein-rich, amazing meals every single day, but I do have the momentum. I set aside one day on the weekend to go grocery shopping and then I meal prep it all for myself. And now I don't have to think. I've like removed all of the decision fatigue of like, will I, won't I? No, there's no will I, won't I. I'm just going to eat what I bought for myself, what I made for myself. I'm so grateful to like Sunday me for thinking that through. And now I just get to ride the wave. So it's really about keeping things simple. The person that asked this question, I know for a fact that she's a Made Good grad. Go back and rewatch Excellence Week. So to summarize, 1, you need a deeper why. Why are you actually doing this? Why does this matter to you? 2, the identity shift. Who are you going to be? I'm the kind of woman that works out 3 times a week. No questions asked. I go to the gym. I go to the grocery store every single week and I get food for myself for the whole week. Like that's just who I am. And once we really start to cement that activity, and you only cement that identity with action. So like you go and do it and then you remind yourself, yeah, this is exactly who I am. And I want you to make it easy for yourself to follow through and know that motivation is not the goal. Motivation is so fickle, but momentum you can build on your own. That's where it's like you have agency again, because motivation, it feels like you have like almost no say in it sometimes. Like your brain just feels slow or your body just feels slow or you just don't feel like it or there's so many excuses coming up that's like, what kind of control do you have over that? But momentum, that's on you. And that's really exciting because now you can take over it. Would you recommend Billings for NFP? I'm not like super familiar with Billings, but let me look it. Let me look it up really quick. Okay, as my phone is loading, I will tell you if you're saying NFP like to get pregnant, or if you're saying it to avoid pregnancy, or if you're like, I just need to learn one method to be able to do both throughout my entire marriage, I'll say the best method is going to be the one that you're going to stick with. That's it. Like they're all pretty similar in terms of efficacy, and you can always layer different data points depending on the method that you're using. Like, for example, we have clients, we teach FEM that use FEM or Creighton, which are these like mucus-based methods, but they add on the second layer of temperature so that they have like one more point to be able to look at the ovulatory window and like when they can have intercourse. Really, truly, though, it's whatever you're going to stick with. Each method is very different. And I feel like it draws a different kind of person. And when I say method, if you're like, I have no idea what she's talking about, NFP is natural family planning, which is like learning how to read your body signs and symptoms for when there is a fertile window. And then people use this to either help themselves get pregnant, because you do have to know when your fertile window is. Goodness gracious. If you think that you don't need to learn a method and like you're just going to get married and you're just going to like happen to get pregnant, you're setting yourself up for like a world of heartache. Make sure that you learn a method and that you know how to read when your body is fertile so that you guys are timing things right, because there's really only like a weekish of the month where you can even get pregnant. You know that? So if you are just like randomly coming together and hoping that you're going to get pregnant and then months are going by and you start to feel like really, really bad and terrified that you're like infertile or something, it's like a whole world of hurt that might not even need to be there. So make sure you learn a method. And then also I will say like cycle tracking is not the same thing as NFP. Like it's not, the whole point of cycle tracking isn't always to be like, should I get pregnant or try to avoid pregnancy? But NFP, very Catholic. So the Billings method is cervical mucus based. Honestly, the charts look similar, so similar to the Creighton charts. Like they use the white babies and the reds and greens and yellows. I originally learned Creighton. Well, first I learned symptothermal when I was engaged, and then I learned Creighton. I thought Creighton was really overwhelming. And now we teach FEM. This looks very similar. Effective, shown to be highly effective when used correctly. Unintended pregnancy rates ranging from 1.1 to 3.4%. Versatile. Great. I've had some clients that I had a client that was a Billings instructor, and I've had some clients that use it, but really, really, it's just going to be whatever you like that you can stick with. And I do like when I do think everyone should learn a method that involves cervical mucus. This is for my Marquette girlies. I know the thought of outsourcing it to a monitor is like really nice and exciting, but I think you should still be able to read your cervical mucus and know like what does healthy cervical mucus look like? Am I producing enough? Is this like showing all good signs on the fertility side and on my cycle health side? Because it's just like a basic life skill, in my opinion. It's a basic life skill to be able to read the cervical mucus. So whatever you do whatever you and your husband are going to stick with. And I do like if you can have like second two forms of data, especially if you have been struggling to conceive, that makes it a lot easier. Or if you are like really, 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 really in a season where you're avoiding pregnancy, where you cannot get pregnant, having multiple layers of data is going to be really helpful. So that can be like cervical mucus and temping are typically the go-tos. Foods to avoid / eat in college cafeterias. Have Indo and eat organic, non-GMO at home. Oh, yay. Okay, the biggest thing at college cafeterias, which I have asked this multiple times. I still want someone to send it to me. Send me a walkthrough of your college campus cafeteria. I want to see it. I will give you all of my thoughts and what I would eat and all that kind of thing. Or if you're in Southern California and you want to invite me to your cafeteria, let's go. I want to walk through. The main things is like heavy, heavy, heavy seed oil usage there. So I would really avoid the fried foods. I'm trying to think about college cafeterias that I've been to before. There's typically like a chicken tender station or like a French fry station. Even like the Mongolian grill, I would kind of stay away from because they saute in a lot of oil from what I've seen. I would, if they have the option of like olive oil and vinegar, are they really serving you olive oil at a college cafeteria? I don't know. It depends on your college. But the dressings might be like another big, 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 big source of seed oils. But from the inflammation perspective, I would say that that would be the big one. And anything that you can find that's like steamed or cooked with water would be great. I don't know if they have steamed vegetables at a college campus, but my main thing to stay away from would be the fried foods and the ultra processed sugary things. It's just not going to be helpful, especially with endo. Ozempic thoughts. I I have not super fully formed thoughts on this yet, which is kind of funny because it's been such a conversation for like the past year and a half or 2 years. I have seen people microdose it successfully with the appropriate care. What is concerning me, well, you want to know honestly, one of the things that's concerning me is that I see a lot of people talking about like, oh, it's like turning off the food noise. But I also have myself and a lot of clients turned off food noise by eating right. So I don't want to say like black and white, I think it's awful and no one should ever touch it because I just don't know what your personal situation is. I would say it has to be something serious for it to be used. And it has to be with like really the appropriate care and the appropriate diet because there's the potential to lose a lot of muscle and to lose the weight, not know how to eat, get off of the medication, and then gain it all right back. And that would be very, very stressful. I think that would be emotionally very stressful too. So, um, I would say I hope that there's other things that can be used instead. I hope that proper nutrition, lifestyle, and exercise could be used instead. But and I know the things that are coming out about the risks associated with it, but, yeah, I've just seen other things where it's, like, certain cases, especially the microdose case that I saw, was really, really successful, so I would say I hope that it's used as a last resort rather than like a, "Ugh, I'm just, like, gaining a lot of weight," or, "I don't know how to lose weight, and I wanna lose weight quickly, and this seems like the easy ticket out." That concerns me tremendously, it not being used for medical reasons, but instead of it being like, well, this is literally at my gym. At my gym, there's a little booth that's like, do you need some glutide shots? Which I think is so insulting. I think it's like a slap in the face to be like, you're here and it's not working, huh? I can fix this. So that drives me a little un poco loco. But I do think it's concerning how popular it's gotten. I'm super concerned with young girls growing up watching everyone and their mother in Hollywood being on it and thinking that that's what is normal and that like losing weight that quickly and like that this medication should just become routine for everyone, that concerns me 1,000,001%. I do just want to keep some nuance in it because I don't know every single person's situation and why they would be on it, but I am concerned with how popular it's gotten. Those are my base thoughts right now. Best non-toxic skincare products and brands for acne-prone girlies with endo. The first thing would be skincare. Clear Stem is like all acne safe and they work pretty well. I'll link that in the show notes down there. And then if you also need a makeup, a non-toxic and non-pore clogging makeup, Priya is a really great place to start, especially because they have samples. So you can try all of it and see how your skin reacts. Like, of course, there's a million different individual products that are acne safe and that are cleaner that you can be using. But if you're just trying to do like a big swap, and this is something that I was talking about on Instagram the other day of like, just because it's non-toxic doesn't mean that it's acne safe, doesn't mean that it's non-pore clogging. In fact, a lot of non-toxic brands include coconut oil based ingredients or tallow based ingredients that will make you break out. Like that is just it's kind of like for acne prone girls, it's not an if, it's a when, which is unfortunate. And I know every single time I talk about this, someone is like, my skin got better with tallow products. I'm like, that's amazing. That's a lot of the clients that I have too and myself. But then it hits a point where we weren't moving the needle anymore, or their skin, this is also a me thing, like the skin was starting to age a little bit more because when the pores are clogged, the skin is not regenerating as well. I have an Instagram post about it where an esthetician commented on it and she was like, I wrote an article about this. So that could be a really great resource to go check out. But make sure that it's non-toxic and non-pore clogging. There's a lot of like really cool brands that I wish I could use and that there's like super non-toxic and I love their messaging, but it's just not for the acne prone girls. So Clear Stem could be a good place to start. If you needed like a quick start, Vana Cream has a cleanser and a moisturizer that you can get on like Amazon for like $12. And those are both like low tox and non-pore clogging, where you just need to like kind of reset your skin. And then in terms of makeup, Priya is great. Vuco is another great brand that all of their products are non-pore clogging. Oh yeah, that was another question. Do you have any acne safe foundation recommendations? Check out Priya. They have a powder one and they have a silky like creamier foundation and they have a pretty good shade range. I actually haven't checked if they have like the super dark colors. I should double check that. But everything that they make is acne safe. Favorite matcha recipe. I feel like I'm just drinking milk and I'm not loving it right now. That is so funny. I am currently drinking a matcha. If you're watching the video, I'm more than halfway done. And if you can tell, it's not milky at all because this is actually, it doesn't have any milk in it. Because you're right. Sometimes, I've had so many matchas and so many coffee shops, and sometimes I'm just drinking milk and it drives me crazy. My favorite way is with sparkling water, a little matcha spritz. So this one, I did a little spoonful, maybe I'd say 2 teaspoons of the reduced sugar strawberry jam from Trader Joe's at the bottom of the cup. And then I had a little splash of water in it and I mixed it so that it would be a little bit thinner. And then I poured, let's say 3/4 of the glass full of just sparkling water. And then I whisked up my matcha and poured it on top. That's my very most favorite recipe, a matcha spritz. If you don't want anything milky or if you run out of milk, which is like my life every single week. I had 2 questions about do we take insurance at my practice? And someone saying how for college girls who want labs but don't have insurance that will cover it. So let's talk insurance for a second. I talked about this a little bit more in the episode with Dr. Shannon, the dentist, and it was so much fun. But I kind of went off for a second because like insurance is not the best form of care, but especially if you're in college or if you're on a budget, like you got to use the insurance that you have. So 2 things. One, we do not take insurance. Insurance does not like holistic and functional wellness. And the insurance world, this is the conversation that we were having on the dentist episode, is that I actually look at people not accepting insurance as like a okay, they're like ready to help take care of me because insurance limits so much of what providers can do. And it really like ties them up sometimes of like not being able to give the level of care that they want or the practice. This is what Dr. Shannon was sharing, which is like so many practices that do take insurance. She was watching how they are like, their whole team is so frustrated and so stressed. And so much of their time is spent arguing with insurance instead of actually taking care of their clients and patients. So it is unfortunate, but paying out of pocket, you will get the level of care and healing that you might actually really, really need. So I personally do it, but I also do have health insurance still. So the way that I would recommend going about it is I do recommend doing annual labs and finding a good provider that will listen to you. So within your insurance model, starting there. And then if you want to come to us, we can fill in the gaps. But that's like a really easy way that we can get started is that you go and you have to make sure that you have compelling reasons to get labs. So like really making sure that you're mapping out your symptoms. So if I was in college and I only had insurance and I didn't have the money to like pay out of pocket for things, I would go and I would bring up if you have a family history of thyroid issues, if you know that your mom, your grandma, your aunt has hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's, whatever it may be, I would bring that up. I would always tie it back to my symptoms of I am exhausted. Like, don't make stuff up, obviously. We're Catholic. But like, whatever symptoms that you do have, you really have to like make the connection so that your provider can be like, oh, yeah, this makes sense because they have to like put insurance codes for it. So that would be like, if I am exhausted, doesn't matter how many hours I sleep or what time I go to bed or like it doesn't matter. I wake up exhausted and exhausted throughout the day. That would be willing. And you have to be like specific with what you want. Like, can I get a full panel of like, we haven't checked my blood work in a while. Everyone should be getting annual blood work. Can we check a full thyroid panel? And that's where I would bring up things like exhaustion or like rapid weight gain or your hair is falling out or your extremities are really, really cold. You feel really sluggish and slow. If you have a family history of thyroid issues, I like for everyone to always check their, blood sugars. So that would be like your A1C, your insulin, your glucose, your fasting glucose, and just asking for like as much as they'll give you, but really making sure that you find the right connection because even within insurance, there's some doctors that I've had that were like literally I think they didn't care if I lived or died. And we're like, no, there's like no reason we need to run that. And then I found one more recently that she's like, okay. And I like talk about peace of mind a lot. And I'm like, it would bring me so much peace of mind if we can check this. I don't tell her that this is my job because, you know, some things are better left unsaid. But being like, it would bring me a lot of peace of mind if we could check on this. And she was actually really great because she brought up, like, hey, if you're going to be stressing a lot about your thyroid antibodies, like we can check them again in 6 months instead of in a year. And I was like, bingo, it's exactly what I wanted. So opening up that conversation. But yeah, let me know if that makes sense, like why we don't take insurance and why the insurance model sucks. But I do say like if you have insurance, use it, milk it to the best of your ability, get what you need, and then be like ready to fill in the gaps if you're like really struggling or you're really serious about really optimizing your health. If you do want to run your labs with us, you can just go to the show notes and you can apply to work with us. We do extensive lab testing in our VIP program now because it is such a game changer and it is correct. Let me just go off for a second. It is crazy some of the things that we see on labs. It is crazy. And then if you do have a doctor that you really like, I think someone had asked this question earlier, like, do you ever work with people that have a NAPRO doctor that runs their labs? Yes. Like a good portion of our clients already have a NAPRO provider that they're established with and that they get some labs from. And so then we can either take that, we can fill in the gaps and anything that we do find, like for example, the other day we ran someone's labs and like just glaring Hashimoto's. So she was able to take that back to her doctor and have that conversation and like get the official diagnosis. We cannot diagnose, we cannot treat anything like that. That's out of our scope, but we can definitely point it out to you. So that was a really helpful thing that we had both sides of the coin and she was ready for care. So if that's something that you're looking for, you can always go to the show notes and apply. There was one last question that was, hey Flo, how can a college girl get started on learning more about her cycle and nutrition? I made the whole cycle confidence blueprint exactly for this kind of person that wants to get started understanding her cycle, understanding food. And we closed it up in March, but maybe we're going to open it again very soon. I kind of wanted to take the feedback, revamp it a little bit. But let me know if that's something that you're looking for and we can put you on the wait list for it. We'll finish off on the Aura Ring. I get questions about the Aura Ring every single Q&A. I've had mine for a year and a half now. I actually just had my 18-month report, this like cute little thing that they give you and they're like, this is where your strengths are, this is what you need to work on. It's so much fun. I do not have any connection to Aura. I have not even a discount code for you. I get $0 for telling you how much I love them, but I genuinely love it. And here's why: because it is a fun data point that can help mirror back what I'm doing that's working. And it also proves the foundations that I teach in my program all the time. It's so, so, so much fun. And I was really resistant to getting it. I resisted it for like over a year, maybe 2 years, where I was intentionally not getting it for myself because I didn't want to get in the way of me like tuning into my body and like reading it for myself. I didn't want to like outsource it to an app. But I actually found that it helps me tune in even more, and getting that confirmation, especially the sleep things. Oh my gosh, the amount of women that are undersleeping is crazy town, USA. Also, I just think it's really impressive that they're always adding things. And someone else asked me to compare it with like the superhuman, or ultrahuman. I don't even know what it's called. I don't know anything about it. I just know the Aura because I have it and I genuinely use it. But I love the way that it kind of will reflect back the things that are working. I will say one of the most underrated things on the Aura app is your HRV, your heart rate variability. Pay attention to your HRV. If you have the Aura ring, pay attention to when it's particular, like what's your average? Are you kind of sitting around the 50s or the 30s or the 70s, whatever it may be? There's no like specific number or range when it comes to HRV. It's a very individual thing, but pay attention to where it's at. It's like a good marker for your nervous system and how your body is repairing and how it's functioning on the day to day from like a nervous system perspective. And it's a good stress marker too. So pay attention to what your average is. And then when it's particularly high, what are you doing differently? What's working? And when it's particularly low, what's going on there? Like what's happening? Pay attention to that. It's a really great way to kind of get feedback regularly, daily on what you're doing that is working for you and what isn't. Of course, I shared on Instagram that they recently added that blood glucose integration, which does include you have to get a blood glucose monitor, which does go into your skin. So just so you know, some people were like, "Oh, is it just from the ring?" No, no, it's a CGM. Like it's you just like put it in the back of your arm or something. And I loved it because then when I had it with my Aura ring, I could match it up and I could like tag if there were stressful situations or like what I was doing, and it was also matching it up with my sleep. And I could log my meals in there, and I could just put it all together as one thing. So I personally love it. It is certainly not a necessity. It's kind of like a luxury. It's a fun toy. But there's so, so much that you're learning from it. Actually, I was talking our other practitioner on our team, Natalie, and I watched this masterclass the other day on HRV and using it to optimize health. And I was like, how do we integrate the Aura Ring more in our practice? Like for all the clients that do have it, and we just like really want to make sure that the people that have it are using it super, super well, because there is so much that you can get out of it. So I personally love it. I don't think everyone needs it, but it's really, really fun. And I love that it's screen free. I've never had an Apple Watch and I never will. The thought of having a screen attached to my wrist, I'll start twitching. I'll start twitching right now. Like that just sounds awful. I cannot handle, my brain cannot handle, I can barely handle having a phone. So the fact that it's screen free. Oh, and then someone asked, like, how do you use it when it's on Bluetooth mode? I always keep it on Bluetooth mode because that way I'm not just getting like constant EMF from the ring, but you just go straight into your settings where like the charging button is when it's docked. It has to be docked. And then there's a little button that says airplane mode, and you just keep it on airplane mode until you dock it and are charging it and connecting it to your phone again, and then throw it back on airplane mode for when you put it on. So this was fun. This is kind of a hodgepodge of questions. We talked about motivation for a good bit, Aura for a hot sec, food things. But if you have any other questions and you're maybe not on Instagram or you missed those question boxes, you can drop them as comments here on Spotify. And if you haven't been listening on Spotify, you can just go straight over there. I also have the video version on Spotify. So if you just want to sit and see each other, we can do that and have like a little lunch date or something. If you enjoyed this episode and you want to share it with a friend or tag me on Instagram, I would love, love, love to see who's listening and what your thoughts are on it. And if you haven't already, make sure that you hit the subscribe button on Spotify. That way you get notified of every single episode that we have coming out and the next time that I do one of these. So I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you on the next one.